Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Jamar Washington, aka J Haleem. Jamar, excited to have you on the show.
I'm excited to be here. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you for all the awesome things that you're doing and, of course, taking some time out with us today. And, of course, before we jumped into the interview, I wanted to read a little bit more about J Haleem so you can hear about all the awesome things that he's doing. And Jamar, aka J Haleem, CPC is a four-time author, motivational speaker, certified professional coach, facilitator, and trainer. He went from working for $8 an hour at the Hampton Inn to earning six figures as a commercial photographer in just a few years. He was able to accomplish all this while being a convicted felon. While working for $8 an hour, he developed his mantra, I won't starve, which was the catalyst for him to leave his job after 1 year only. Since then, he has been pardoned and now is a best selling author and motivational speaker. And I was reading a little bit before we jumped into this. And one of the things I loved about Jamar and all the awesome things that he's doing is I'm a big believer in like words having power. And to hear what he says about I Won't Starve, that really resonated with me. But he also has his Starve podcast, which stands for Stand Tall and Reclaim Victory for Everyone, every day, actually. And he has loads and loads of information, whether it be on business information, entrepreneurship, what is entrepreneurship and what shouldn't be entrepreneurship, and how we need to talk more about that. But one of the things I absolutely love, probably even more than that, is what he has for his academy as well too, the I Won't Starve Academy, where he does stuff for kids. I think it's so important to continue to give forward to future generations. So Jamar J Haleem, excited to have you on the show. You ready to speak to the IMCO community?
Most definitely. Most definitely. I didn't know who that guy you was talking about.
There you go. It's always cool when you get to hear like all the awesome things you're doing. We were talking a little bit before this is how we're just go, go, go all the time. Sometimes you
Blur,
don't
yeah.
even stop to
Blur.
smell the roses.
It's a blur.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we, I guess, jump more into what you're doing now, let's rewind the clock a little bit, hear a little bit more on how you got started, what I call your CEO story.
Oh man, I've became a felon when I was in college. And so when I graduated college, even though I was a great student, I couldn't get a job. So I immediately jumped into entrepreneurship. I was already dabbling in it in college, but like really seriously, because you in college, you're thinking when you get out, you're gonna get a job and change around. But that wasn't in the cards for me. And so I went really like, hey, I'm gonna start a business. And I did. And been in business ever since. I mean, not with the same business, but that's been my thing ever since being an entrepreneur. Went through that phase, went through the whole Obama phase when the world kind of went to hell before COVID. Had to sell my company. I had a commercial cleaning business, had to sell that, move back to South Carolina where I lived, where I went to college and where I became a felon. And that's where I had to go take an $8 an hour job because the world had just reminded me that I was a felon. I moved up north to DC. It was a lot less stringent than it was in the South. And so when I came back down south, I was like, oh yeah, you're a felon. Like
Mhm.
start back from go. So I went and took the job and had to do what I had to do. But it took me about a little over a year and I was out of there. I had already had a camera and I was shooting and just had to make some money to pay some bills. But once I got my footing, got an office space and ran with it, I Won't Starve was created because I just realized I remember going to a TD Jakes conference with my church in Orlando. And he was saying that he brought a real lion on the stage,
Mhm.
a real one, and it was in a
That's
cage.
crazy.
He was like, "This lion has been caged his whole life." He said, "So he should be able to walk around here without a problem." He said, "But no, everybody's still afraid that what he has in him might come out. He might remember who he is."
Mhm.
And I started crying, man, because he's like, some of y'all in here know that y'all got it in you, and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So literally, like 3 months after that, I left my job, got a space, and never been back since. So, and that was 10 years ago, and it was just like, hey, I know I did it on a major scale. I knew I can do this, and I Won't Starve came out. I wanted to throw the middle finger up at people, but I'm saved. I couldn't do that. So that was my mantra. That was my way of just saying I won't starve. But even though it was out of a negative space, started being positive for people. Whenever I would hashtag that and I would be doing it for the, and look, I just got this deal with this person. I just got to deal with this company. I won't starve. But people started hitting me in the inbox like, man, that did something for me. And I'm like, okay, you ain't no other choice but to be positive at that point. And so it became my mantra. and still is to this day. But we turned it into a 501c3 in 2020, so we can make sure we helping out the kids that went the wrong way or preventing them from going the wrong way when I did, which was in high school and college. So that's what we've been doing with that.
Nice. I absolutely love that. I appreciate you and sharing that so much. It's so funny you were talking about the TDJs because when I was listening before we prepared and started to doing this interview, I was like, it sounds just like TDJ. And so many of the things I was hearing, I was like, that really resonated with me. So I think you were talking about the different brands as well too. And I remember TDJs had something where he was talking about, the value of those brands and why you pay for those values. So when I was listening to it, I was like, man, it just sounds just like TDJ. So it's so funny that you had that transformational experience at that conference.
Well, look, man, I'm honored. Somebody said something like that about one of my books. It's a book called From Good to Great. And my last
Mhm.
book, a friend of mine that live in DC, actually, he purchased the book. He said, "You must have read this book From Good to Great." I said, "Nah, I didn't read it." I said, "I get it," because I know him and we always trade good book titles. He said, "Yeah,
Mhm.
when I read your book, it made me think about this book. I ordered this book. This book been sold 5 million times." I said, "Oh man, that makes me on I'm on the right path."
There you go.
I'm like that. But no, he definitely shows up in a lot of my speaking because I follow, his teachings, but more importantly, as an author, as him and Malcolm Gladwell for me, I always tell people my writing style kind of fits with Malcolm Gladwell from a storytelling space. And then how I do the business as an author, I've learned watching, how TD Jakes does business as an author. So that you might hear and see some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I could definitely see it, and I think those are two. What they say, success leaves clues. And I think if you're around those people and doing things like them, or even able to kind of see that inspiration kind of come out through everything you do, then you're in the right place for sure. So, I wanted to drill down a little bit more. Can you take us a little bit more on how you're serving the community, how you're making that impact, and making that and doing all the things you're doing?
Oh man. So again, I was just knocking it out the park as a photographer once I figured it out. And one thing I got put into doing government contracting. I had an opportunity. I didn't never know anything about government contracting. Definitely didn't see a wave for the bit for a photographer to do this. But a gentleman had told me I should go ahead and look into it. I did. And that's what kind of catapulted me as a business owner in that space, working with the government, all the local, federal, state government in the area where I was at the time, and then started spreading out to different parts of the country. But then I found out, I needed to help my people. I need to help the minority business owners because we still don't know the avenues that they have for us in government contracting. It's still not enough. And so I got a chance to partner with my local city at the time to bring in more contractors like myself, and we wanted to boost up the supply diversity numbers in that city. And we were able to do that to the tune of 600 new business owners coming
Nice.
in over a 5 year span. And that's when my consulting space kind of, opened up from there. And I've been a full time consultant pretty much ever since. And again, became a certified coach, certified trainer, because I just wanted to be taken seriously. You know, um, wanted people to know that I went through the proper training and everything like that to do that. But I've been in business for over 20 years. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to business. I predate social media. So it was just before everybody was saying that, hey, this is the thing to do. I was doing it when people were saying you were crazy to be an entrepreneur. But helping out the community, that's one of the biggest things that separate me from a lot of individuals. One, my unique proposition is me, my experience, where I come from, me being an outlier, me coming from the crack era, me being what you would consider a juvenile delinquent, and then being who I am now. That's something within itself. But then when I learned what to do with the government space, I mean, I remember leaving little old South Carolina and going to Long Beach, California to speak. And everybody in Long Beach looking at me like, wow, this is amazing information. I never knew anything about this. I knew I had something because in South Carolina is not looked upon like a LA County,
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, the knowledge that I have and resources that I have is for me and for my people, and I'm consistently giving it to them.
Yeah, and I think that says so much, and you being able to kind of do that. Of course, being able to kind of have those experiences, but I think so many times people can have those experiences, good and not so good, and they don't want to share them. But the ability to be able to share them really opens up the doors for many other people, many other opportunities, and I appreciate you for being able to do that.
Yeah, I appreciate you and for acknowledging that because we fight we fight against each other. We try not to, my business model with J Haleem, we literally J Haleem LLC is we consulting. It's not from a high end space where we only got to work with. We're working with minority business owners on all fronts. That's who we coaching. That's who we're training, and that's who we're working and helping get in contracts. So everybody, and we're also helping people that's doing bigger business than I am. So it's not like
Hmm.
it's just, I'm working with people that I'm standing on top of. It's people that got construction companies. They just don't know how to do business with the government. Okay, I'm gonna help you go ahead and continue to go higher. I did work as a photographer, then we went to the media space. It's way more money in a whole bunch of other things than it is in the media space. So me helping other people can be going off to get tens of millions of dollars that I probably would have never gotten as, a practitioner. So that my whole business model is setting up people to win.
Yeah, I love that, setting up people to win, and I think so many times that we don't realize how powerful that knowledge is. But I think feel like there's so much misinformation, which is why when I was listening, watching your YouTube and your Instagram and all of the things, you were talking a lot around entrepreneurship and sometimes how there's this. It seems like it's sunshine, rainbows, gumdrops, and all those things. It's not really always that, and we also have to be very aware of like who we're paying attention to and getting that information. So I love that you're able to do that, and the speaking, coaching, training, and all the books and all the awesome things you've been able to do.
Yeah, man, it's tough for us with social media out here right now because everything's edited. Everything is just cut straight to the millions of dollars, cut straight to the yachts, the mansions and everything like that. And the truth of the matter is, if you look at the numbers, which people don't want to really look at, a lot of people are failing at this thing called entrepreneurship. And we've learned over the years that before it was just you were failing, period. Now you're really failing at more of an alarming rate because people are not entrepreneurs. They're calling
Mm.
themselves entrepreneurs, but they're not. They're self-employed. We were the crazy people when we decided to go start a business, but we understood that creating a business was doing something for your community. Creating a business was getting ingratiated in your community. We don't tell that no more. All these businesses is doing exactly what everybody else is doing, and it's not helping anybody. You're trying to help your bottom line. I get it, but when you start a business and you get a space, I just think about my kids. I remember when Jamie Harrison, you're not from South Carolina, but you know who Jamie Harrison is, when he was
Hmm.
running against, a couple years ago in South Carolina, running against Lindsey Graham, when he came to my office and other politicians, like, because I'm in the community. I have a space in the community. I have property in the community. They have no other choice but to deal with me. We invest in our community. We contribute. I'm on a board here. That's what business owners are supposed to do in a community, not just I got a page and I'm trying to get as much money as I want and you're not really changing anybody's lives. How many people have you hired? You're supposed to be helping the ecosystem. People move into certain communities because the business is working, in the community. Oh, it's good business over there. That's why we're going in that community. But everybody's just trying to figure out how to make a buck or figure out how not to go to a job. I never thought I'd see the day where it's frowned upon when a man tell you that he want to go to work and go and do his 8 hours and take care of his family. Like, that's
Mm.
okay. Support that brother. He look like now he's the crazy person. And if
Right.
you're an entrepreneur, but I like my E-Trade babies. I always love the E-Trade babies. I'm a stock guy. E-Trade baby said, you live with your parents, but you got a house in the metaverse. All right. This is what we're doing now. This is what we made okay now. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're gonna
Yeah.
we got the fake stuff online and we don't got nothing real. You know what I'm saying? But that's okay.
Yeah. Which is why I appreciate, all the work you do. It's funny as you say that because the word that I just wrote down was stewardship. And it almost feel like those people that do have the businesses, it, I don't know if you feel this way, but it kind of sounds like you have this feeling where it's not just something you do because you want to do or you want to check off a box. It ends up becoming part of your DNA. It ends up becoming part of who you are, and it's your way to be able to make an impact and be able to serve the community, be able to provide jobs, opportunity, whatever it is. You're able to make that impact. It's not something that you're doing because it's quote unquote cool, it's sexy, it's whatever. It's because it's making an impact and it's in alignment with who you are. Do you feel like that's part of like what
No,
happened?
I definitely, I totally agree with you 100%. We have business owners who are supposed to solve problems. Entrepreneurs are visionaries. So if you're doing the same thing 100 million other people are doing, how much of a visionary can you be? All we're doing is trying to show people, like, you're not going to run into too many people that do what we do at J Haleem LLC. You've interviewed plenty of people, so you haven't heard plenty of people who, because everybody, they're paying for courses for government contracting, right? But you can't get a government contract online. You can't. The government is not going to sign a contract off of Facebook, off of Instagram, off of LinkedIn, off none of that. That's just not how the business of the government works. So now they're coming up, but I've been doing this since 2017. So we we got to talk about what's real and how you actually do the business. And then you have to make relationships with these people in these government offices. They have to know who you are. The SBA not giving you no contract, they don't know who you are. And you haven't shown that you could put in the work. But that's that. But as long as somebody can buy a course, they'll believe it. And if they go ahead and put a
Yeah.
green screen up in the car, yeah, I drive a nice car. I have multiple of them. That's fine, but you'll never know it because I don't come from that era. You know what I mean? I don't come from that era. I take care of my family. My kids in private school, yeah. I don't have to tell you what school my. That's not about my business. That's never been something that when we grew up and how we was taught how to do business that somebody had to say. We were talking about what I do, how what I do helps you and solve a problem that you have. That's what your business is supposed to be about. Everybody's business is solving their pocket potentially, but that's not even happening that well if you really look at the numbers. So what are we talking about?
Yeah, that's why I love the foundation of everything you do, the DNA of everything that you do, because again, we can get so caught up in, I always say, the products and services, you want to know the why, why people are doing it, everything that they do, but you also want to know, like at the heart of entrepreneurship, I believe it's all about solving problems, just like you said. And I think once you start to drill into that, it doesn't start to become about all those other things. It starts to become about like how can you make that person's life better? How can you give them peace? How can you solve their whatever it is? You start to really drill into that, and you start to see the businesses that build out from there.
Yeah, and the money comes. The money comes. In my last book, my second chapter of my last book, Business Corner, is freedom over finance. I made a decision. When I started being a full-time photographer, I was like, hey, I want to be around my kids. And so I had to decide what kind of photography I wanted to do. Well, I went to people who actually needed my service, not just people with birthday parties or weddings or whatever the case may be. That's what made me go corporate because I'm saying these people need my service. And when I'm done with them, I could be home just like they can be home with their family. I can be home with my family. They don't have me here 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning at no club. Hey, I'm at home with my family. I'm able to do a shoot in y'all offices and leave and go pick up my kids from school too. And so that was how I was able to solve my problem and also be there for individuals who needed my service. I was in my own lane doing that at the time where I was. So I kept doing it, but also watching these successful business owners, I saw them always in the community. They were always in the community. We in a college town, a couple of HBCUs in that town. I saw a lot of the lawyers I worked for always had some type of something table, something up there and they're giving to things. They supported me when I was having certain things. So now I have a sister, an older sister who had a business. She said, Jamar, you there. Only thing you're missing is the giving portion. Say, I don't see your name or your company name on a lot of things that's going when people talk about donating. And when I did that, my life changed and my business life changed, because they was teaching, these are $1 million earners annually, was teaching me and telling me, hey, this is the next phase. Because you can get to the 6 by yourself. When you're trying to get to the 7s, you got to build an infrastructure and you got to bring some people, you got to get a system. And I was able to watch that, but all of them were solving a problem. All of them was ingratiated into the community. All of them barely use social media, but they're making millions of dollars in business, So I like to pay attention to those individuals.
Yeah, as we talked about, success leaves those clues, and you have to make sure that you follow those clues, and that'll lead you to exactly where you want to be. So let me ask you this. So I know you touched a little bit upon like how you work with your clients. Is there anything additional that you could talk about, like your process, how you help support them if they are looking for those government contracts, relationships, whatever it is, how that process works that you
Oh
make that
man,
happen?
yeah, I can. We talk about all of it. Yeah, so with the government side of what we do, I mean, we deal four different services. So of course, start off. Most people might just need certifications. That's fine. It's an a la carte service. You need to get certified, depending upon what certification you get. It's a price for that. I have a team who will do that certification for you. Get the paperwork together. It's a tedious process, but hey, you need it to go ahead, especially if you want to be a prime contractor with the government, especially federal, definitely federal and state. Local, you might not, you can get around it. And I got workarounds too, and I always open up that, but that goes to the contract space. That's the next service we have. So maybe you're doing a contract. You might not need to get a certification if we can go ahead and work some things out, and that's going to come down the line into the coaching portion. But we will do the paperwork for you, help you do the contract, we help you find contracts. So that's a negotiation to see where you are in your business and how can we help you focusing on contracts. Again, like I said, we can go out and find the contracts for you. Maybe you got a contract, but you don't know how to put it in because government contracting is crazy. If you don't submit the contract properly, they'll kick it out. If you bring it to the office and they told you to do it digitally, you automatically out of the run. If you don't give them everything that they asked for, the way they asked for it, you're out of the running. So it's good to get with somebody who know how to do it in a team with people who know how to do it properly and also have relationships as well, because that's what's most important in working in the government space. The next thing is the coaching side, because we work with market research and strategic partnerships. So those two things there are important. The government is vast. Everybody gonna say, hey, you can do government contracting. How? Once I put you on SAMS.gov or put you on things, all this stuff going to come up, and you're going to lose because you don't know how to navigate and where you need to put your business. So you got to know the market research and get through that space. And then the strategic partnership piece, when we talked about if you can get around that, well, we partner you with prime contractors who might already be working. Let's just say, for the sake of saying, a radio company has doing business with the government and they're going to be doing a lot of marketing, but they want to use your podcast. Well, you don't need to go ahead and become a full-time prime contractor. You can go ahead and be a sub underneath the radio station. You handle that, and which means you don't have to go get the certification. So it's certain
Mm.
things like that we teach, but you need those relationships. And then the other thing, the biggest thing, not to be put to the last, but the money. A lot of people don't have the funding to be able to sustain a government contract. It takes a little
Mm.
longer sometimes. You can take you 30 days to 90 days to get paid. Well, that's 30 days, that's two pay periods, you know, that you deal with your people, maybe even six pay periods with 90 days, and you still have to get supplies, everything like that. So we have the relationships with banks, we have relationships with other kind of alternative lenders that we can help our clients be able to get some funding so that they can sustain themselves while they're waiting on their paycheck from the government.
Nice. I appreciate you breaking down all those things down, especially like I think as much as you said, like those relationships are so important. Also, that knowledge and awareness is important. Just even thinking that you don't have to be a prime to be able to work with the government. You can be a sub and all those things. I think you can, what they say, you can go so much further when you're working together or standing on the shoulders of giants. And you having that expertise and knowledge and being able to kind of share that is absolutely huge. So, I wanted to switch gears a little bit and I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or even a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
Oh man, as I talk about relationships, man, I want to get to know people. I don't have a problem with sending dinner, lunch, breakfast, flowers, whatever, and I just understood how my networking as well too. I network differently. I have a philosophy called being a cheese. And I've always put myself around places where everybody's my potential customer or client. Nobody's my
Mhm.
competition. We waste time doing that. So we go into a situation, it's like, I don't want to be in a place with a bunch of consultants. I want to go to a place where I'm the only consultant.
Mhm.
I don't put myself in a room with a bunch of consultants. Now, if I'm going to learn something, yeah, by all means. But when it's time to get down to business, I'm probably going to be the only consultant in the room where I'm trying to hunt. You know what I mean? Because I need everybody to be a potential prep, everybody to be potential food. And so I always try to tell my people that, and I put it in my second book, which is my business. This is like my manual here. You won't start key principles of entrepreneur development. And this is teaching beginner business owners how to get to it. Again, I went from $8 to six figures, and from 14 to 17 is when I made my six figures, and never left from that. But it was just starting where I was, understanding how to do that, understanding the market research. As I said, I wanted to know where those people was that needed me. But more importantly, when I found them, they had the budget. So me breaking my neck, working for 5 and 6 hours for $400 for an event, I went straight to shooting headshots at law firms and getting $1,200 for 2 hours. So it was just a different scenario. Once you do that research and you start understanding who needs you, and then the law firm referral system is so ridiculous. Like, hey, use him, use him. And you use, okay, bring him over here. And then the money was no problem. Then doing that, and then again, understanding how to network, and then also the strategic partnerships, making those partnerships, working with a law firm got me to be able to do work with Amtrak, which is probably one of my biggest photography contracts I had, working 17 cases for Amtrak, an Amtrak train accident, right? So these types of things, making those strategic partnerships is everything to me. I would actually do trainings on that because you can't get to it alone, so trying to get to where you need to get to. But it's all about my relationships. But yeah, I do whatever needs to be done. I've sent lunch and breakfast many a days. Instead of somebody just calling and aggravating you. Yeah, we met. We had a great time. And now I'm sending somebody over there with some donuts and some some orange juice and some coffee and all of that other stuff like that. You gonna remember my email? You gonna remember the food I brought? I think you gonna remember the food, right? So that's
Yeah.
that's a hack that people can use.
Well, they say the quickest way to this person's heart is through their stomach. So that's a Southern thing. Actually, funny enough, all my family's from South Carolina, so
Oh
that's
wow.
probably one of the where that came from.
Wow, yeah. I spent a lot of my years in Columbia, South Carolina, but I did work all over the state.
Yeah, absolutely. But I love that approach, and it sounds like you're not afraid to do any pivots or changes to get to where you need to be as well too. Because I think so many times when people go to like a networking event and they just say they're a real estate agent, and there are a bunch of other real estate agents there, then they're not realizing that maybe I don't need to go to a networking group like that if I'm trying to get more opportunities. Maybe I
Yeah.
need to switch up the things that I'm doing. But I almost feel like people sometimes don't want to do those pivots and changes.
And sometimes people don't want to stand out. But if you don't want that, that's
Mm,
why everybody don't need to be an entrepreneur.
mm,
When you decide to be an entrepreneur, you stand out. I like an entrepreneur, like everybody can be one, because it's like everybody can go to the military. But in the military, you go to basic training. So it don't matter where you come from. Once you got to go through that training. Once you come through that, now you're a soldier and you stand out. But you can't just skip the line because you got a skill set and you don't want to go to work, somebody tell you what to do. And so now you muddy in the entrepreneurial waters by calling yourself an entrepreneur, and you're not really doing business. You know, we have contracts across the country where we coach business owners that make $500,000 or less in multiple parts of the country, right? And most of the people are dealing with the same thing. I'll tell them, I say, you're not really an entrepreneur. You don't have your stuff lined up right. You seem like you got this skill and you don't want to work for nobody, but you're not an entrepreneur because you don't have nothing set up like the way you're supposed to, and you're not. All right, who's working for you? What you still using Gmail? Like, where's the .com with your thing on it? Like, you can't even get business credit if you wanted to. So how are you that? But there it is. Oh, you can just Zelle me some money. Like Zelle, you can't Zelle an entrepreneur no money. You know what I'm saying? You can Zelle a hustler some money. You can Zelle what's the name, but you can't Zelle me. You know what I'm saying? That means you're dealing with me personally if you zelling me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's
yeah,
just, it's laughable, man, but that's what's leading right now. I'm like, you can't,
yeah.
people, oh yeah, just zell me. I'm like, I thought you were doing something. I thought you was in business because your tax professional, because they're part of your team too, would have told you that's not that. That's 101. Why you got that going in that account? That ain't supposed to be there. You know what I'm saying? But they in business though. They're rocking and rolling. They're entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it's so true. I only laugh because it's true, and I only laugh because you see it. You see it a lot. You see it all the time, and I appreciate you again. That's why I was going through, all the things you're doing and bringing that to light because I think a lot of times those conversations aren't being had, and hopefully by having those conversations, getting those things out there, people will start realizing that hey, either I do need to go back to whatever position or opportunity that I had there, or maybe I need to go through the basic training of entrepreneurship and actually learn what this is and what this looks like and how I can put myself in better opportunities and better position to get those opportunities.
I totally agree. And again, I'm down for self-employment. We actually have something called the Self-Employment Summit that we're doing with I Won't Starve Academy because it's for my babies, and I want the babies to know that you don't have to be an entrepreneur, but that don't mean you have to work for somebody either. You can have a skill set, and we're going to teach you how to do that. And we're going to not going to charge. We don't charge them. We charge the trucking companies and everybody, all the people with the trades, because you're gonna make some money off these babies. So y'all got to pay to be here, and they're gonna do it for free. They're gonna pay to get training from you. So they want to be a hairdresser. Well, all that's great, but it's still a way to do that too. And they need to learn how to do that correctly and understand it's okay to just be self-employed, make your money, and not have a responsibility. Because what makes me when I think about CEO, I think about responsibility.
Mm.
And that's the difference between somebody who's self-employed and somebody who's an actual CEO. They have less responsibility. They have less responsibility. CEOs work for everybody else. You working for yourself. Everybody get paid before me. Everybody. So, and I don't just have one company. So, like I'm saying, everybody get paid before me. It is what it is. And I've been that way. I know what that looks like. I wasn't that when I was a photographer, but immediately once I got to the point, okay, now we have J Haleem Media. And so let me bring on these other 4 people and I'm gonna invest in the camera. I got a space for them to operate out of. And so now this is what it is. But I also teach them how your company have a valuation if it's only you.
Mm-hmm.
Your company's not worth anything. It's worthless if you're the only person that's providing the service. I've never done a certification, not even the ones that my company carries. I didn't do that. I hired somebody to do it. And now the people are doing it for the other people. So I can't even run that side of the business, if that's the case. So we have to, if we want to grow, somebody can buy my company and still I can step aside because I don't do that type of stuff, but your company will have no valuation. We own things in the company name. That's a part of, your valuation. What is your company actually worth? It's like, yeah, I made 200,000 last year. Yeah, that's a job. If you sit down, can your company make any money? No, well, that's not what that is. You created a job for yourself. Salute to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that valuation piece and really understanding like what you're doing and where and what is that putting you and what place is that putting you because I think so many times there's like a misconception around what we're actually doing or what you could be doing. And I think that's the greatest kind of I guess misconception or thing that people want to and need to get straight is to understand that what you're doing is exactly X, Y, and Z and A, B, and C, exactly this thing. You might just be running a job essentially where you are
Yeah.
self-employed, but you may not have the business and understand the difference between that. And I love that nugget. So I know you kind of touched on this already, which is my absolute favorite question: the definition, what it means to be a CEO. And our goal is to have different quote unquote CEOs on this show. So Jay Haleem, what does being a CEO mean to you?
As I said, the one who's willing to take all the responsibility. CEOs have to step up, and CEOs take the hit when everything is going bad and get all the praise and accolades when everything is going good. A lot of people don't want it like that. They just want it to all be going good. CEOs don't get, we're not talking about the CEOs who hadn't started the company. We're not talking about the public companies that, okay, because those are glorified jobs. I tell people that all the time. You know what I'm saying? They're high paying jobs, but they're jobs nevertheless. But we're talking about the person who started the company, founder, CEO, is cutting everybody check before you do. When the company's public, the CEO gets paid with everybody else. But when you're not that, you take all the hit, you to get paid last, you take all the responsibility. And that separates I'm not, this wasn't a gender specific quote, but that separates the men from the boys, but that's for
Mm.
everybody, for the women and whoever else is CEOs. But who's going to willing to step up and take the responsibility? Who's going to be responsible for when somebody wear one of my shirts and they're working, it's on me if they did wrong. A lot of people are like, hey, yeah, well, I only do this part, like, yeah, because that's not who you are. You're not a CEO. And we have to think like that. I think we like it. It took me a long time, and I put president on my thing. I used to do CEO when I was 19 because it sounds cute, right? But an older person said, you can put on CEO on your thing like you got a big business. They're like, you say owner, which at the time, yes, I was an owner, and then it grew to being the president, but yeah, I don't even do that because for most CEOs, like, again, you're going to be responsible for this company. Here, we're going to put you in here to run it. And some people are the founders and the CEOs, but I had to teach somebody the other day. I said, hey, if that company's public, they sold it. They don't own it anymore. I said, if they're still a CEO, that means they appointed and hired them to be CEO, and they're getting a check. Mark Zuckerberg gets a check from Facebook, from Meta. Now, it's way bigger than all ours, but he gets a check. Meta is publicly owned. It's not owned by him, anymore. Oh, wow. Like, yeah, see, we have to stop saying things that's not, like, we have to start telling people what it really is, and I'm happy to be the person to go ahead and educate them. Sometimes it sounds bad and people don't want to hear it, but it's the truth, and it's going to get you where you need to be, understanding this thing we call entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and I would even extend that to say it not only just tells you where you need to be or where you're going to be, it also tells you where you are now. Because I think there's such a misconception around what we are doing, where we're at, and if we want to get to a certain place, you can't get there if you don't know where you're at and you don't know what
Yeah.
steps you need to take. So I think that's so powerful. But I love that word responsibility. And I love it obviously because there's so much that you can juggle and have to do and be responsible for. But I also love how that comes full circle with what you talked about with business and entrepreneurship, how it was also the stewardship of the community, stewardship of the people, that like that's also a responsibility. So I love how that responsibility word kind of rings true with both of the things we were talking about, and how not only do you need to be responsible for the people that are before you, clients, customers, all those things, but also for the community, because
Yeah.
truly being in business is about impacting, making that investment in the community as well too.
Yeah, we're starting to see that less and less, but I'm praying that we can get it back because it's much needed. We're encouraging people not to open up businesses in the community and just do it in the metaverse or whatever. Like, but and this is why, you're having these food deserts and people are putting up a bunch of money to, get into these real estate, whatever's online. And it's like, oh, there's a whole grocery store right here in your neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Won't y'all 10 of y'all get this grocery store up so the people around here, they ain't asking you for free groceries. They still got to pay for groceries. Don't make them go 10 blocks. Don't make them go 2 miles to get food. They giving it to Walmart. You know what I'm saying? So let them give it to you. And then you go ahead, you're doing something for the community. Set up something when school time come around. Do all that other stuff. We got to get back to that. I pray that we can, but for me, I'm just set the example for what I do in my family and how I do in my business. And the prayer is that I touch so many businesses because, again, we help out, we coach and train business owners all over the country, from San Diego to Chicago to Jersey to Dallas and to Minneapolis. Now we got a contract with them. So back still in South Carolina. So it's all these business owners that is going to hear this and they hear this on a regular basis from me. I'm telling them the same thing, and prayerfully they're taking it. And when they're putting their business out there, is going to have some of that on there, some of that sprinkle that juice on there, and some of that come out. You know what I'm saying? The businesses that I touch.
Yeah, absolutely. That goes back to that stewardship and being able to kind of be the one to make sure people are informed and know and see the opportunities that sometimes we walk past or drive past every single day that we can be pouring back into. So JLM, truly appreciate that definition. Of course, I appreciate your time even more. What I want to do now is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional that you can let our readers and listeners know, and of course, how best people can get a hold of you, find out about the podcast, the books, all the awesome things that you're working on.
Oh man, one thing I like to tell people, I won't starve. Once I created it, I've thought about it, this quote. It's called, "The platform you leap from is more important than the platform you land on." And so that was what made me jump when I left my job, because I understood who I was. It came back to me who I was and the platform that I had already created. And so all I did was decide to build on, first bet on that, then build on that. And so now I don't live in South Carolina no more. I'm on the West Coast now. And I was able to come over here and not start from scratch. Starting from scratch looked completely different from me because of the platform. I came in here being able to offer something immediately because of what I've already accomplished, and then been able to build on that and then continue to help other individuals. So understand about building your platform is way more important, because if you build a strong platform, wherever you go, you'll still be able to be successful. So we wasting our time on what might be. What do we have right now? How can we make that better? We're not going to focus on what we don't have. A lot of times that prevents us from getting what we want. I read in the book where it said when you focus on what you do have, you get everything you want. So we want to do that. Focus on what we got. Focus on that platform. How to search. How to shore that up so you can be great. I'm on all social media platforms. I am J Haleem is my social media handle, and jhaleem.com. You can just put J Haleem in on Google and I'll pop up. These are my 4 book babies right here. My first one, I Won't Starve, from $8 to 6 figures. You Won't Starve, Key Principles of Entrepreneur Development, Morning Motivation, the Consistent Encouragement Through a Crisis. This came out during the COVID. Everybody was just extremely negative, and I was just letting them know, hey, this is not the first crisis. It's definitely not going to be the last. How do we stay encouraged through no matter what it is? And then us as entrepreneurs, we have COVID type crises all the time. Your business can be going under. It don't have nothing to do with COVID. So you need to be ready if you're an entrepreneur, how to stay, motivated and consistently motivated no matter what. And my last one, Business Corner, what's really needed to survive the entrepreneurial fight. I believe is my best work. And it talks about people start business from start to finish to selling it, because we should be getting into business, thinking about how we're going to get out of it. But more importantly, who are you going to have in your corner during the process? And that's what that book is about. Hopefully, if you know me, it'd be me, but it definitely need to be somebody or somebody like me. We ain't never seen a prize fighter go to the ring by themselves. They always had somebody in their corner.
Absolutely. Well, I truly appreciate that. Obviously, to make this even easier, we're going to have the links and information in the show notes as well too, so that everybody can get a hold of you, the podcast, the books, all the awesome things that you do for the community and beyond. So I truly appreciate you again for taking some time out. I think so many times that we forget more than anything else. Entrepreneurship can be quote unquote lonely, but I think so many times it can be lonely because we're not having those conversations. We're not reaching out. We're not building those relationships. We're not having people in our corner and looking for those people. So I think by doing that, it only is not going to guarantee our success, but it increases our likelihood of success. So
Yes.
thank you so much for being in our corner today. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you guys.